We had been expecting this for weeks, and this is usually how it goes for the U.S. Supreme Court. Their term ends in June. The rulings that have been pending are issued, and they come out a couple a week. And yesterday came the decision from the U.S. Supreme Court that the NCAA's business model is basically an antitrust violation. And here's how it goes. It's very simple. The NCAA is the group that oversees all of the universities that are out there that are competing by recruiting the best athletes to come play, typically basketball and football. Those are the big sports where the money is generated, so the stakes are high to get the best players. So by putting a rule in place through this governing body that all you can offer officially, not unofficially, but all you could officially offer is room, board, tuition, fees, and snacks.
Right.
It operates as a price fixing for your labor force.
Of course.
You don't have competition among these various universities as to who's going to get the best deal. Free enterprise goes out the window. It's gone. It's all set. It's all fixed, and it becomes a violation of the antitrust law. So the opinion that came from Justice Gorsuch yesterday, 9-0 court, agreed that It's an antitrust violation.
Did that say a lot to
Brett
you there?
Kavanaugh,
just off the bat, 9-0, like unanimous?
There are plenty of 9-0 decisions because there's plenty of things that are obvious, but on something that's even remotely controversial in society,
yeah,
because there are plenty of people who think it's fine and dandy to not pay college athletes. When there's controversy in society and the court says 9-0, it's a message to anyone who's on the wrong side of it, hey, you're on the wrong side of it. And Justice Kavanaugh's concurring opinion was great. He took a flamethrower to the model.
Yeah.
I mean, because the argument from the NCAA is this, Chris. Our fans prefer our athletes to be amateurs. Well, first of all, do they? Does any fair-minded person who understands how much money is being generated by college sports say, you know what, I only enjoy this because I know the kids aren't getting paid? Who in the hell thinks that way?
And who thinks that's realistic anyways? I mean, some of them are getting paid, and it's different and everything like that. But, yeah, I know. You're right. It makes no sense. It's absolutely, totally backwards. It makes no sense at all. So I'm with you there. Go ahead.
Well, and here's the point. The case was very narrow. It was a fight over whether or not players who are being recruited by these universities could be offered educational benefits beyond the undergraduate experience and the room, tuition, board, like a laptop, like postgraduate credits toward future education.
Business schools
other
or whatever,
things,
right, yeah.
Other enhanced education, because we always say, oh, you get an education. Well, okay, offer me more than
get me in the law school
undergraduate experience.
Right.
Yeah. Give me advanced tuition to law school, med school, all these other things, different research help, whatever. Enhanced study guides that aren't part of the basic package, whatever the case may be.
Sure.
The NCAA said no. So that's what spawned this litigation. But the Kavanaugh opinion puts the NCAA on notice that the floodgates are going to open, Chris, because I assume there will be a wave of lawsuits filed as soon as today, if they weren't filed yesterday, attacking everything about the NCAA's restriction on full and free enterprise and competition. And let me tell you the most obvious thing, because there are several states as of next Thursday, July 1, that will allow college athletes in those states to begin generating revenue for their names, images, and likenesses. Florida, Texas, just two of them.
Right.
And there's a concern that it's going to be the Wild West. It's going to be open season. It's going to be crazy, and there's potential abuses, whatever the case may be. But you know what? At the core, think about the rule. The NCAA, in order to avoid a long overdue reckoning arising from its refusal to pay fair value for the labor that it gets for these billion-dollar extracurricular activities, beyond saying none of the schools are allowed to pay these kids, there's a rule to preserve amateur athletics that they can't even go out and market their own stuff.
Can't do anything.
The fame that I have, I can't sell jerseys with my name on it. I can't do autograph shows. I can't benefit, even though it doesn't cost you NCAA university.
Right.
I can't go out and make that money.
Even though they're going to have a spring
of amateur.
Yeah, right. Even though they're going to have a spring game or a scrimmage, right? You know, before the season starts, and they're going to charge fans to come in to watch that spring game or the scrimmage, and then they're going to make you as a player sit on a table after the game's over and sign 1,000 autographs for those people to add to it. But you can't go out and get $1 for that autograph from anybody else. So sorry, I had to just go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but that used to bother me to death when I was in college, and especially for some of the other guys that didn't have the means I did or the parents I did, where I'd go, man, this kid's got nothing. He's sitting in a line. There's 10,000 people. He's going to be here till 8 o'clock tonight, and they're going to give him a biscuit and a hamburger and say, good job, and he's going to get to go home.
That's blown up.
Yeah.
Right? The plunger was pushed down on the detonator yesterday, and even though the ruling was narrow, Justice Kavanaugh put the NCAA and its member institutions on notice that you have liability, and now you can't say, well, we didn't know. We wanted to see how this case would turn out, and that's never an excuse anyway. They interpreted the law incorrectly, and this is the point that people need to understand. They have been interpreting it incorrectly for decades. They have believed that this is an acceptable business model. And, Chris, it is stunning to me that it took this long for the issue to finally be brought to light. I mean, this is the ultimate good news, bad news. The good news is the law finally caught up with a corrupt business enterprise, which is the NCAA. The bad news is it took so long to do it.
Right.
And I remember thinking about 10 years ago, this isn't sustainable. People are starting to realize that this isn't fair to the kids. There's too much money flowing in. It's not fair. They're going to have their reckoning someday. And I think the NCAA, Chris, has just been trying to run out the clock as long as it could, extend the clock, not run it out, but extend the clock as long as it could, make as much money, delay for as many budget cycles as possible, having to worry about how we pay these guys, and look at how long it's taken. And it's going to take even longer. They're going to continue to cram money into their pockets that otherwise would go to the players. And hopefully the reckoning comes quickly. And when it does, hopefully as much money as possible gets shaken out of the trees. Because it's wrong now. It's always been wrong. And everyone knows going forward it is wrong. And hopefully they'll do something about it. And if they don't let the floodgates open on name, image, and likeness, that's the easiest piece of litigation. Your model is an antitrust violation. How can you justify not letting these kids go out and make money from their names, images, and likenesses when it costs you nothing? How can you justify that?
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. It's really, I mean, you think about it, it's cruel in a lot of ways. It's a bunch of grown-ups colluding to make sure young men, and especially in the football world, most of them African-American young men who don't get compensated for what they do or their talents in life or anything like that. And I know, listen, there's always that guy that went to the NFL and he ended up getting compensated and all that. But for every one of those guys on a team, there's 10 other guys who were NFL caliber or, something happened to where they got a bad injury, don't get to go to the NFL, or were really an awesome piece or part of the college football team and sold thousands and hundreds of thousands of jerseys and all that. And they don't ever get to go to the NFL or capitalize. And I know they get that, free education, which is not nearly what do I want to say? Tick for tack or whatever, the same equal to what, they're giving back to the university. It's just wrong. And there's no cap on any of these people in the NCAA or the people that work at these schools. They continue to just make more money and benefit more and more every year and try to hold the athlete down that way. It makes no sense. It's a total abuse. I mean, it's actually cruel in a lot of ways the more and more you think about it, about all the big-time athletes that have been awesome in college football who never got fairly compensated for what they did for their schools or their conference or anything like that.
Regardless of what category the player falls in, it's wrong. If you are the person who becomes the star player in the NFL that makes money there, you should have been making money at college. If you're the guy who suffers the gruesome injury like Tyrone Prothro from Alabama in 2005, he had the Theismann-esque injury that ended his career. He could have gone on and made a lot of money in the NFL. Part of the risk he took at Alabama resulted in his career ending. He doesn't get compensated. Or just the guys who have no chance to play in the NFL, but of course are lured to the major college programs with this idea that, hey, maybe you can play in the NFL. Come play here. Maybe you go to the NFL. They're the guts of the machine. The stars don't get a chance to shine if you don't have the other guys on the field.
Sure.
They should be compensated too. And there's so, anytime you start getting the NCAA or those who support the NCAA inexplicably on the run, they start throwing furniture in your path. Oh, how are we going to do this? Or what about the non-revenue sports? Well, hey, that's for you to figure out. You've made all this money over the years without paying your players. Maybe you should have saved some of it for the rainy day fund, for the reckoning that's coming when you have to figure out how to make it all work when you have to actually pay these guys. And Chris, something you said, it reminded me of one of the passages in the Kavanaugh concurring opinion, and I think it's worth repeating here if I can find it. Here it is. The bottom line is that the NCAA and its member colleges are suppressing the pay of student athletes who collectively generate billions of dollars in revenue for colleges every year. Those enormous sums of money flow to seemingly everyone except the student athletes. College presidents, athletic directors, coaches, conference commissioners, and NCAA executives take in 6- and 7-figure salaries. Colleges build lavish new facilities, but the student athletes who generate the revenue, many of whom are African American and from lower income backgrounds, end up with little or nothing. That's it in a nutshell. And that has been the fundamental truth that the NCAA has been running from for at least the last 10 years. I mean, I can imagine the meetings pre-2000 where the people on the inside understood the scam they were running, and they're sitting around smoking cigars and laughing because no one has figured it out. Can you believe we've done this, where we make all this money and we don't have to pay our workers? What factory in America can operate without paying its workers?
Yeah.
They've been getting away with it in plain sight for decades, Chris. That's why the reckoning needs to come, and when it comes, it needs to be big. And you got people saying, it's going to ruin, there's not going to be any more college football. There'll be college football. As long as it's generating billions in revenue, there will be college football.
Right.
It will survive.
Now, where does it go, though? Just that's where I'm curious, just like your take on that. How long does this all take to come into effect? When do schools and teams start to, change the rules on their own a little bit? When does the Nick Saban start to go, I'm going to change? Here's your scholarship offer, and you're into the Alabama Business School, blah, blah, blah. Like, when will we start to see action? Can we do it as soon as possible? It's got to be on the table now. Yeah, right, okay.
It's got to be on the – as recruiting happens right now. Now, the kid has to know to ask for it.
Right.
And hopefully the word gets out to the athletes and their families that it's not just your undergraduate education. You can ask for more things. But I think every day that passes where the NCAA doesn't completely reform its business model, and what the NCAA is hoping is that Congress gets involved and creates a federal law that the NCAA can hide behind.
Of course.
Because yesterday's ruling to me says all this stuff is illegal. Any rule that you put in place to restrict the benefits, educational or financial, for someone that you want to come fuel your multi-million-dollar football machine, any restriction you put in place is an antitrust violation. And that's why I think the first thing they should do today, name, image, and likeness, it's open season. And trust me, it's going to be a potential mess, because what it does is it allows the schools who have the richest boosters to give a guy a position where you're selling his jerseys and you're losing a bunch of money because you're paying him way more than what his jerseys are ever going to sell for, but it's a way to funnel cash to him. There will be abuses.
Definitely.
But that's okay, because the ultimate abuse is denying the kids the opportunity to make any money at all. That's the ultimate abuse. There's nothing that anyone else can do that's going to be worse than what the NCAA has done for the last 100 years.
Yeah, agreed. And who cares if that booster or whatever decides to give a guy some job for signing autographs? And he pays him $1,000, a few $1,000s in a summer to come intern, and overpays him a lot for a job that, he just sat at a desk and, answered a few emails. But, we paid him $10,000 in July and $10,000 in August before training camp. Who gives a damn? Like, come on. Move on with the world. It's the way the world works, like you're talking about, in every other industry. So, hopefully we'll start to see some of the benefits of this new ruling.
They can start to make their recompense by giving Reggie Bush his Heisman back.
Oh,
that would be the first tangible.
You're right. That's a good one.
Give him his Heisman back.
Right. Yeah.
Because they get so caught up in these stupid ass rules that and look, guys have been getting.
Come on. Yeah. I mean, take everybody's Heisman away then. I mean, like almost like half of them got to go because there's been rules broken. Sorry.
I mean, the 2 tickets that you would get as a player and you would sell to whoever for whatever amount of money the person wants to put in your hand. That's been going on forever, right? That's sure they did that in Texas.
Yes.
They've done it everywhere.
That's where my point was a few years ago when I made the comment about $100 handshakes and everything. It's going on everywhere. It doesn't matter. Like, stop. Like, just, get over it. It's going on at Harvard. It's going on at USC. It's going on at Texas. It's going on at Michigan. You can't stop it. Okay, but now we can maybe make it more legitimate and actually really help out players and their families and everything like that.
You know where it's not going on?
Yeah.
You know where it's not happening? It's not happening in the NFL because everybody gets paid. See, when you pay the players a fair rate, no one else feels compelled to give them a dime.
Right.
They're being compensated. So the NCAA has benefited from this. It's been this weird, like they have to act like they care, but maybe they don't really care deep down because it's allowed them to continue to make all the money and keep all the money and pay the coaches the multi-millions that they pay them. But that's at the core of this. Anytime there's an issue like this, somebody's worried about their own ox being gored. And what's going to happen is it's going to be harder to justify all the money that goes to the athletic directors, the presidents, the coaches. It's going to be a lot harder to justify. The coaching staff, everybody's making 6 figures on my 20-person staff. And look at these facilities. Look how great they are. And the money will get redistributed. But however it gets redistributed, it needs to be distributed to the people who are generating it. It's a basic fundamental truth. And I think yesterday's 9-0 ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court should put that issue to rest. Now, going forward, we figure out how best to do it. And the NCAA has every incentive to do it, Chris, because they continue to face liability if they don't do it right. And maybe the right way to do it is just throw open the floodgates and let the schools offer whatever they think their budgets will support to attract that great athlete who's going to come to town and help them win a national championship.
No, I know. I mean, I'd love to see that. I would. I'm actually really interested to see kind of the unintended consequences if things did go that way, too. Just what it would do to college football. Is it going to make, the power schools even more powerful? Will it make those top-earning schools dominate even more? Will the Clemsons, Alabamas, Ohio States of the world, because of this rule, even get a stronger hold on college football, Mike? I mean, that's where I'm kind of interested with all this stuff, too, the things to look forward to down the line.
One last point.
Yeah.
Because the NFL does have limits on what players can do by way of entering into side deals, specifically as it relates to the spreading sportsbook industry, DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, etc., PointsBet. There are no such limitations unless Congress passes a law or these various states pass this law. You could have, even though the NFL athletes are forbidden from having sponsorship agreements with sports books, college athletes should be allowed to, because any restriction on their ability to do so is an antitrust violation. And the only reason the NFL can do it is they have a union.
Yeah.
And as part of that union existence, are allowed to have these antitrust violations. And I don't think college wants to have a union, but that's the only way they're going to be able to keep Pandora inside of her box, Chris.
That's always tough.
Because with the antitrust laws, it is open season, and it's going to be crazy. But you know what? One way or the other, the people who deserve to make some money are finally going to start making some money.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.